Yo, what's up everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Alright, so for this video, I wanted to talk about some upcoming content that we know is coming to Pokemon Go and whether or not it is all going to be enough to save this game, because let's be real here, Pokemon Go is in a bit of a decline. There's a lot of controversies around some of the stuff that Niantic has been doing, and then on top of that, they've been very lackluster with their content releases. There has been a lot of stuff that Niantic has added into Pokemon Go over the past couple of years, but a lot of that stuff launched with a lot of bugs and glitches. And because of that, a lot of the hype that they could have generated with these new features was fizzled out really quickly. So yeah, there's just a lot of negative sentiments when it comes to Pokemon Go, and I really feel like the only time players felt like there was a huge upside was whenever there were special events like Go Tour and Go Fest, and I really do not think that's sustainable. Niantic needs to have a string of really good content that a lot of players can get behind. Otherwise, this game is going to fizzle out. There's going to be less and less interest, and more players are going to quit the game, and I really do think that that's obviously not a really good thing. But we do know that in the pipeline, there's going to be 3 major things that are going to be happening in Pokemon Go, and I really do think that there is a lot of potential with these 3 new things. The first of which is, of course, a new season of Pokemon Go. Yeah, the current season of Sharing Skies is coming to a close, which means we're going to have a whole big shakeup in the PvP meta. So for all the people who are engaged in PvP are going to find that, well, PvP is going to look completely different. In fact, this is probably going to be the biggest meta shakeup that we've seen in a very long time, where a whole bunch of Pokemon that has been irrelevant for the past couple of seasons are now suddenly at the top of the meta. And there's a couple of Pokemon that I really feel like I'm really surprised that they're going to be such big standouts, and I do think that this new season is definitely going to be interesting. Like take for example, Clodsire was one of those middle of the pack Pokemon that really did not generate a lot of interest when it was first released. I think a lot of players were kind of wondering whether or not this Pokemon would ever be super relevant. Yes, there were some niche uses for this Pokemon, but in general, it was a Pokemon that just felt very average, even with the community day that it received. But I really do think this Pokemon is going to completely dominate. I mean, it's essentially built for dominance within the Great League. It has a very good type combination of ground and poison, and on top of that, it has a very powerful moveset. So I was always questioning whether or not this Pokemon would ever be any good. But as of right now, it is going to be at the very top of the meta in this new season. So I'm really curious to see how much that Pokemon is going to make an impact, considering that there's plenty of players out there who have themselves a Clodsire that they could use, because yeah, it was very recent that we had a community day for this Pokemon. So I do think it's going to be a very interesting season based on the Pokemon alone, but I also feel like it's going to be interesting because they're going to be shaking up the gameplay as well. In case you didn't know, they're going to be reducing the cooldown for switching Pokemon from 60 seconds to 50 seconds. So you're going to see a lot more switches happening in PvP, and I do think that's going to be something that's going to generate a lot of interesting gameplay, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of impact that's going to have. So yeah, just based on the Pokemon alone, I think it's definitely going to be an interesting season. I mean, there's so many Pokemon that are no longer meta relevant, and I think that's definitely going to cause a stir. Like Registeel and Medicham, they're just completely missing from the top of this meta. And on top of that, there's certain Pokemon that saw huge relevance in the most recent season that are now in the bottom tier, like Annihilape. In fact, I did read somewhere that even Primeape is now better than Annihilape, so I think that's really hilarious. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff happening in this new PvP season, and I'm really looking forward to how it's going to shake up. But we have to be real here, PvP is in a pretty bad state as of right now. There's just so many technical issues and a lot of connectivity issues with PvP that a lot of players have just outright quit PvP altogether. So I do think there's a lot of work that needs to be done before players can get really hyped about this new meta, and I really hope Niantic focuses in and commits to a lot of the PvP fixes, because yeah, the system is a broken mess, especially for some of us who play on Android phones. and I really do think that you're not going to garner a lot of interest in PvP if the system is in such a broken state. I mean, why would anyone play a game that is completely broken and is going to prevent you from getting some easy wins because of technical issues? Like, that is just not fun at the end of the day, and I really hope Niantic is aware of that. And if they really want PvP to be a form of longevity for Pokemon Go, then they need to make sure it is in a polished state. But let's switch gears and talk about raiding, because I think that raiding is definitely going to get interesting really soon. First and foremost, we're going to see the return of Zacian, and this is a long time coming. This is a Pokemon that is extremely relevant within the Master League, and a lot of players have been wanting this Pokemon to return in Pokemon Go for a very long time, and Niantic is finally doing it. We don't have an official confirmation yet. I do predict that we're going to be getting that really soon when they announce all the content for the next season. But yeah, it has been teased that Zacian is going to be returning. Now, speaking of which, I am also really excited for the next season because it's going to be themed around the Galar region. And when it comes to the Galarian region, there's a lot of standout Pokemon that a lot of players have been anticipating, and it looks like we're finally getting all of them. Like, we're gonna start off with the starters that has already been teased on their social media, and on top of that, it looks like we're going to be getting Dynamax Pokemon, which was the staple of the Galar region mainstream games. I'm talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield. If you ever played those games, you would know that the cool new feature for the Pokemon franchise that they introduced was Dynamax Pokemon, which essentially made your Pokemon into a kaiju-sized Pokemon, and it created a lot of interesting battle mechanics. And this is now coming to Pokemon Go. But data mined info seems to suggest that this is going to be its own thing. It's not going to work like Mega Evolutions, it's not going to be like a temporary boost. Basically, you're going to be able to catch Dynamax Pokemon in the wild, and they're just going to be Dynamax Pokemon in your collection. I think there's going to be a separate Pokedex, if I'm not mistaken, and there's going to be certain conditions that you will need to meet in order to actually catch Dynamax Pokemon. I think it's going to be very interesting if this is all true. And I do think it's going to create a new form of gameplay that some players might actually get behind, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all shakes up. So yeah, big PvP shakeup with the new meta, and of course we have a bunch of legendary Pokemon that players have been wanting making a return, and then of course we have new Pokemon from the Galar region as well as Dynamax Pokemon, which is going to be a completely new feature. Is all of this stuff actually going to be good for Pokemon Go? Is it going to garner new interest? I really cannot say for sure, but I do predict that there's going to be a lot of interest, mainly because Pokemon Sword and Shield was very popular when it came to the mainstream games. So I think a lot of players have fond memories of doing Dynamax battles within that game. They came across a lot of really cool Pokemon within the Galar region. So I think in return, Niantic is definitely going to see a bump in interest, because that's really the appeal of Pokemon Go, right? It's catching Pokemon in the real world from the games that you really enjoy, like all the Switch games, then the DS games, and the Game Boy games. And I really do think that this is going to follow suit, because there's a lot of really cool stuff from the Galar region, and I'm really glad that Niantic is now shifting Pokemon Go to that region. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the Alola region. I mean, we had Alolan Pokemon for the past, I want to say 3 years, and I really haven't gotten sick of them. But yeah, it's about time that we shifted gears, and I think the Galar region is long overdue. I mean, they already dabbled into Scarlet and Violet Pokemon before even going full in with the Galarian region. I thought that was really weird. Like, we got the starters for Scarlet and Violet before we got the starters for the Galarian region. I thought that was a weird choice, but it is what it is. But it's like I said, there's a lot of things that Niantic needs to do to get players interested in a lot of the stuff in Pokemon Go. Like, if Dynamax Pokemon get released in a very buggy and glitchy state, I'm going to be very concerned for the future of Pokemon Go, because I think Niantic needs a lot more goodwill from the Pokemon Go community. I mean, there was a lot of cool features that were released in the past couple of years. I think the Daily Adventure Incense was a huge win. Routes still needs a lot of work. Party Play still needs a lot of work. And yeah, I mean, if you think about the track record of Niantic releasing new features, it's very up and down. There's so many cool things that they did, but on top of that, there were such major fails for a lot of stuff that should have been really cool. I think Party Play was a huge missed opportunity. It was definitely really cool as a concept, but the way Niantic implemented it with all the challenges, I just felt like it was very lackluster. And the only people who do party play are those who do waffle raids, or people who just, I don't know, they play with specific players, and maybe that was the goal of party play, but I really feel like with all the new features that Niantic released over the years, they just felt very unpolished and they felt very incomplete, and I really hope Dynamax Pokemon doesn't end up being the same thing. Because, yeah, Niantic needs a huge win. They need a big W right now, because the only time players feel interested in Pokemon Go is during special events, like with Pokemon Go Fest and Go Tour, and I just do not think that's sustainable. I really do think Niantic needs to consistently produce better stuff in Pokemon Go, and they need to be polished, and they need to be glitch-free. Otherwise, players are just simply not going to care, and Niantic is going to continue to foster this bad reputation that they have, that they just simply do not know how to produce good content. And I really do not like the fact that Niantic has that reputation, because I really enjoy Pokemon Go. I really think this game is well made, but Niantic has been very lackluster. And I can't think of a better word than lackluster when it comes to releasing new stuff, and that's definitely something that needs to change. And then again, I really think they need to fix PvP. Having a new season with a whole different meta is cool and all, but it's going to mean nothing if PvP is still broken the way that it is, because players are simply not going to care. People are not going to dive into PvP. Because for myself personally, I've had terrible experiences with PvP over the past year, and I just have a really hard time wanting to engage with PvP. That's just the current state of that game mode. So yeah, Niantic, if you happen to be watching this video, which I know some of you actually watch my videos, go and fix PvP, for the love of God. I really feel like PvP is in such a terrible state right now that it's one of those things that's losing a lot of potential with Pokemon Go. So yeah, these are just a lot of my thoughts and opinions and some of my speculation regarding the future of Pokemon Go. Again, I think there's a lot to look forward to, but there's a lot of things to be skeptical about. Let's have some cautious optimism when it comes to the future of Pokemon Go. There are definitely going to be new things in this game, and yeah, they're going to draw some excitement, but at the same time, there's a lot of work that Niantic needs to do, and we cannot discount that. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Now, let me know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about down below. Are you excited about anything in particular regarding Pokemon Go? Or is there something that you feel Niantic needs to do more? Let me know those thoughts in the comments down below, and let's have a great discussion. And let me remind you, there are going to be some concrete info on a lot of this stuff coming out really soon, so make sure you pay attention, because there's going to be a lot better info on what we can expect. So yeah, keep your eyes out for that. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And also don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the absolute best way you could do so is by joining my Patreon. If you want to be a Patreon member, go and click on the links in the description below. And if you choose to do so, you will get a permanent spot on my in-game Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids and the friendship system, you can play with me by becoming a Patreon member. And yeah, make sure you go and check that out. And if you want to support my channel in a very different way, you can do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. With all that said, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.
Jinsula